What's up, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of GameTape here on the OBR streaming network. I really appreciate you guys tuning in here on your Monday night. We got shows for you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, here through the off season on the OBR streaming network. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. You hit that like button, you hit that bell, so you know when we go live. This is pre-recorded the day before. This is coming out on Monday. I got a stupid work schedule right now, so we're doing these on Sunday. We are your hosts. I'm Jacob. That's Sam Pennick. Sam, how you doing tonight, man?
I was doing better before I checked the score of the Cavs game currently. So who knows what the outcome is when this is being watched. But right now it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's a rough it's a rough first half. Hopefully we can laugh about this later and have a good moment. When you guys are watching this, you can laugh at us and our stress. That is what we are hoping happens. So not a lot going on in Cleveland Browns land. Last week on the debut episode of this show, we're going to do a lot of film breakdowns on this show, probably continue it through some of the preseason and stuff like that and go further. But first, we're doing film breakdowns of all 7 draft picks. Maybe we'll get to some UDFAs if we get there. We'll just see how the next couple of weeks. Last week, we did the Mason Graham episode. If you haven't checked that out, I think it was a lot of fun. We did a draft recap. This week, we're doing Carson Schwesinger, the 33rd overall pick, the linebacker out of UCLA. It's not often linebacker is a very unsexy position, and it's not often that I watch it and I'm texting people being like, I'm having so much fun. That's what happened with Carson Schwesinger's tape. And I've got some concerns. I'll bring them up as well. It's not all perfect. We know that, but it was a lot of fun breaking down his tape. So we're going to get to that in just a second, but I wanted to ask you something. Do you believe so we got rookie numbers. Rookie minicamp just took place. We get some video. We can't tell crap. Plus, it's against air and a bunch of rookies, undrafted. Like, don't take stock in anything other than the guys were there putting in work, and they're starting to get some familiarity with the coaches and things like that. And that's always awesome. But we got some numbers, and I was planning to potentially add a Quinshon Judkins jersey to this wall. He gets 10, Sam. How do you feel? I know I almost feel like there's only like 2 rookies I don't think will try to change their number. I think Fannon's fine at 88, and I think Sampson's good at 22. But other than that, I have a pretty big feeling. I think Sanders actually might stay at 12 and do the Tom Brady type thing. I kind of like that for him. So I can kind of see that. Man, I don't know, man. That 10 looks weird. Am I crazy? Am I putting too much stock into this?
So I'm the old man yells at cloud when it comes to jersey numbers, because I grew up when we lived in a civilized society and different positions had specific number ranges to choose from, and you would never hear of an NFL running back wearing a single digit or a 10 to 19. So I think for me, I'm always going to be biased against the weird stuff that's commonplace now. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter, but like for me personally, yeah, I think it's weird to have the running back wear number 10. I don't personally like that, but do whatever you want, I guess.
That's pretty much kind of where I'm at. It's like I'll get over it, but I don't know if I'll buy it. Like, I don't know if I'll buy it. Like, I'm just gonna wait. Plus, like, I've been burned. I have 2 jerseys on the wall right now of players that don't wear those numbers. Martin Emerson has changed his number. Alex Wright. Now, I get Alex Wright changing his number from 94 because Dalvin Tomlinson paid him to take that Tomlinson could get that number. So I understand that. But Emerson just like went out and did me like that and took number 1. And I'm just like, I got to stop buying jerseys. They just change their numbers as soon as like a year after I get their jersey, they're just like, I'm not rocking with that.
I feel like Judkins is a 33 or a 39 type of guy.
Okay.
His running style.
I worry about 33 and just like the Trent Richardson vibes. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, fair, but
I'm very superstitious is the problem. So yeah. I'm like, no. That's why
we're running out of numbers here, Jacob. This is this is not going to end well. There's the new ones, triple digits.
Just start putting hundreds out there.
negatives, or we could do floating points, do fractions, decimals
20
too.
and a half.
They
Why
said
are
there's
we
an
20?
unlimited number of numbers between 1 and 2, so you've got infinite possibilities.
Just have fun with it. Just be stupid. All right, let's do it, man. Let's dive into this Carson Schwesinger conversation. We'll kind of start with just a little discussion around kind of some strengths and weaknesses, some things that we've seen. Sam's got some plays from the Iowa game that we want to highlight. I've got some plays from the Minnesota and I can't even remember what the other game was. But I've got a couple of games cut up here from him.
Right?
Yes, it was Oregon. Yeah, because I remember I was watching some plays with Dylan Gabriel. So I've got about 14 plays between the two games that we're going to highlight. But Sam, just off the top, man, just some things that stand out about Schwesinger's game.
I think the two biggest things that stand out are both extremely encouraging for his NFL projection, and that's his athletic ability and his reaction time. His click to close, I see it and I'm moving towards it. Both I thought were excellent. And then it's great when you have one of those, right? And then when you have both of them, the sky's the limit for you, I think, as a NFL player. It's going to take some time for him to adjust to the NFL game, I think, just because there's a lot more going on in the different formations. He's going to be seeing a lot of different things than he did in college, because the majority of NFL schemes are a lot different than what you would see out there, UCLA's opponents. But the mental acuity, I thought, was really impressive, where he was rarely fooled. And not only was he rarely fooled, you could see that he was processing and seeing things at a different level than the other players on that defense. Just a different speed to it. And, he's able to sift through all the misdirection, all the linemen, the hunks of mass there in front of him. And he's able to see what is developing behind the line of scrimmage. And then he has the athletic ability to capitalize on that, right? Sometimes you have these really smart players, smart linebackers, and the Browns have had plenty of these guys over the years, right? Scooby Wright, Tank Carter, those guys kind of come to mind, where they're cerebral players, they're smart, but they don't have the physical tools needed to capitalize on that in the NFL. They just didn't have the athleticism to make plays and be starters on defense. And I think Schwesinger has really good athleticism, and that's both in fluidity and that's in explosiveness linearly. And you combine those two facets, and I think that just gives you a young, extremely talented, just ball of clay at the linebacker position, where I think he has a ton of room to develop and improve, but he's already really good. I mean, he led the nation in tackles last year, right? You're probably pretty good if you could do that. And then just the way he did it, where it wasn't all these, big splash plays. It was this fundamentally sound, consistent tape. And I don't know, he has everything you want in just a reliable, consistent Mike linebacker, I think, or just about everything. We'll get into the concerns we have in a little bit. But then he adds that physical capability, that athleticism dimension to it, where, linebacker isn't necessarily a premium position, and you don't necessarily see a lot of linebackers drafted as high as he was, but you can see why they felt comfortable doing that and why they had a first-round grade on him, because it makes sense given his tape, his athletic ability, and then the mental side of it. And when you combine all those things, you have a guy who could potentially be a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker for the next decade. And whether he's playing with the JOK or he's more or less replacing him, I think he's going to succeed wherever he's placed on that second level.
The one thing that I think kind of I was trying to find a way to like characterize kind of the way he plays on a down basis. And I know it's like a cliche saying he plays every snap like it's the last snap he's ever going to play in the NFL. Not in the NFL, but in football. Like he plays every snap like he's like, I got to give 120% because I might not ever play another snap. I don't know. Nothing's given. You know, he's a 0-star recruit. He was a walk-on. He had to be a special teams ace for multiple years before he even got a crack at the starting lineup. And that's where part of my concern is it's kind of like only 1 year of production. So you're always worried when there's 1 year of production on these guys. Like you're like, well, is it a flash in the pan? It doesn't look like a flash in the pan when you watch the tape. It's not like he's getting lucky on a bunch of things. But, you know, that's a little bit there. But, like, it's just so instinctual. Like he just has such a good feel. And I know we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth with some of the plays you have highlighted. I love his zone coverage instincts. Like he can play man coverage. Don't get me wrong. Like he can play man coverage because he has that athletic ability to keep up with linebackers and running backs and tight ends and things like that. Mm-hmm. But his instincts and his feel for his zone, and then the way he just watches the quarterback. And like, I've got a play to show you where like it's Dylan Gabriel and you just watch him he feels a guy to his left diagonally. This guy's like 10 yards behind him to his left. And he feels it. He starts drifting that way because he watches Gabriel's eyes and then explodes and knocks it down. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, that was not because sometimes you see like, you'll go and highlight plays and you'll go to watch like interceptions and things. And it's really just like got in the right spot at the right time. Like the ball gets tipped or it gets like, I love Xavier Watts, but some of his turnovers were like that, where it would just be like the Notre Dame safety, where it would be like, oh, they drastically overthrew a guy, but Xavier Watts has a nose for the ball. So he's there and he catches it. That's not really what happened in the situations where Schwesinger is able to make pass breakups and things like that. For the most part, it's him playing really good defense. And so while I think you draft him because he's a phenomenal tackler and a phenomenal run defender, I think we're underrated. Some people are underrating some of the coverage skills. And it has a lot to do with everything you talked about. The instincts, the speed, the trigger. Like when he figures it out, there's a couple sacks that I'll show later from the Minnesota game where it's like, hey, go. And you can see him kind of figuring out where he needs to go. And he identifies like, hey, I don't think I'll get blocked if I run through here, and just shot out of a cannon, puts Max Brosmer on his ass. Like because he has that level of athleticism. Him and JOK would be one of the most athletic duo of linebackers in the NFL. Would that work? We got to see. We got to see Schwesinger actually play in the NFL. I know all of those things. But watching his tape, you're just like, this is an incredible athlete who just has a feel for the game that translates. And going into some of the things that concern me, and I'll get some concerns from you, and then we'll kind of go into the tape after that. We're going to watch some tape. Ends up on his back a little bit too much. I think there's some power things where he does a lot of what you see JOK do in the NFL, where he understands I don't have the strength and power to really go through offensive linemen or to stack and shed offensive linemen, but I'm more athletic than them and I'm going to beat them to the spot. And he does that. And I expect him to continue to be able to do that sort of thing. But when they do get his hands on him, if a lineman climbs or a tight end climbs that second level, gets their hands on him, he gets taken out of the play. And I think he's a little undersized, a little light in the pants, and his functional strength is not where I want it to be. But I really believe in NFL strength and conditioning programs being on a whole other level. So I believe you can coach that. I believe it's not necessarily coaching, but it's just getting him in there. I believe he's a very driven player. You hear him talk, and you watch 90 solo tackles, and he played some good offenses. It's like 90 solo tackles, over 100 tackles this year, and you're like, yeah, he works hard. If he can just add a little bit more strength and be able to kind of fight through he does fight through some of the blocks from here and there. I don't get me wrong. And the Cavs just are down 80-39 at halftime. I think I'm turning it off.
We've seen them do that team.
80-39, down 41 points. Anyway, yeah, so that's kind of my concerns there, and then the 1 year of productivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I think it is just strength concerns for the most part. That's both when he's engaged with an offensive lineman or a tight end, he just does not have the strength to get away from them. And like you said, he's athletic enough to where he doesn't have to engage every play. But depending on the role that he plays in the NFL, especially if he's playing with JOK, I also don't think he's as athletic or fluid as JOK is. So he's going to get engaged with more often than JOK does. So that's a concern. And I think that is visible as well when he's making contact with the ball carrier, right? There's not a whole lot of plays where if they're both running at each other, he kind of just stops them, right? It's usually the ball carrier will fall forward, pick up extra plays. He's not really going to just upend someone and stop him right there. And that's something that you'll see on one of these plays. I think I have one where that doesn't happen. Now, there are plays where that does, right, where he's able to stop that, but it's not consistent. And as NFL ball carriers get bigger and stronger than the ones he's faced in college, that's going to become more of an issue. So, agreed, the 1 year production is a little bit concerning. But I think with his story, his work ethic, like I think he's going to be a good NFL player. So that doesn't concern me as much as the lack of strength. And again, that is something that is fixable, right? You can add mass, you can add strength, you can add muscle. So it's not this debilitating problem where you think, oh, he's not going to make it in the NFL because of this flaw. Yeah. It's a concern, but it's one that can be improved and worked on. And if he can do that, I think he can be a really, really impactful all-around linebacker, whether he's playing Mike or Will.
And I look at it and I say, look what Jason Tarver did with JOK. And I know, and again, like you said, he's not quite JOK. He's not quite on that level of physical gifts. He's plenty of them, but not quite there. But what you saw from early JOK to what he was the last time we saw him was night and day. If you do that to this guy, the guy we're about to show you, if you can make improvements like that, and he can, because remember, Schwartz, it might have actually been Tarver last summer who kind of was like, we need him to go gain weight, like straight up called him out, like he needs to come back 20 pounds heavier. Like it was something along those lines. And JOK came back heavier and played his best football until he got hurt. Like I think arguably was playing as good as he had played before. I think he was arguably better at that bigger weight. And I think we see that I think they just need to do the same thing with Schwesinger. And like you said, 0-star recruit, that work ethic to go from what he was to the 33rd overall pick, that's Baker Mayfield level shit. Like that Baker walked on twice and became the number 1 overall pick. It's that level of impressive work ethic to go from a 0-star recruit to the 33rd overall pick. I know it's not quite. He wasn't the Heisman Trophy winner, and he wasn't the number 1 overall pick. But you get my point. It's in the same vein. So You've got some Iowa tape. Mm-hmm. Let's dive into it. and let's kind of work our way through some Schwesinger tape.
Yeah, this was a really fun game to watch. He just, his college tape is enjoyable, and like you said, not too often you hear that about a linebacker, right? Because they're the guys who are doing the dirty work, and he's not this, blitzer, right? Like he can blitz, but that's not where he made the majority of his plays. That's not where the intrigue comes from with him. So a lot of these plays, like this first one, you're just going to see him, run fit. Like, right, he's just reading, he's reading his keys, and he's filling his gap, right? So he's going to end up between that tackle and then the tight end. He's the only guy there, and he does his job. The running back does fall forward a little bit, but
did he call that play out before it happened? He pointed over to the left.
Yeah, he does that a lot. So I don't know for sure if he was wearing the green dot or not, or how that all works in college. But he's communicating a lot. He's pointing it out. He's telling his teammates where to line up. He just sees the game so well, and he understands how to play defense. And again, like you're saying, you put this level of athlete and this level of mental processor with one of the best linebacker coaches in the league, you're probably going to get some pretty good results. So pretty exciting. So now we're in the red zone. This is an example of just his speed, right? So Caleb Johnson is, making some things happen, and Schwesinger doesn't make the play here, but he's in pursuit that whole time. Like, he's right there. So he wades through the line here, gets through all that mass. He's not the one who brings him down, but he would have had his teammate not done that. And this is what you really like to see, even if he's not, like, that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, right? There's no stat that covers that. That's a really impactful play because Johnson doesn't get hit. He doesn't get tripped up by that one defender, and Schwesinger isn't there. That's potentially a touchdown, right? So there's these kinds of plays where he's almost always in the right spot, and that is just, it's fun to see because he's playing linebacker at such a high fundamental level, and it's just encouraging because that's what you want to see out of a prospect. When you can see that out of an elite athlete, it's just enjoyable.
Well, see, and this hasn't, it's probably come out by the time you guys are watching this, but as of the recording, this article I wrote isn't out. I'm revisiting the first four of Andrew Berry's drafts, the 2020, 21, 22, and 23, because I want to get to the bottom of how many hits and misses and what defines what is his, and how does he stack up against the others. And I was talking about Jacob Phillips, the third round linebacker that they took in his first draft in 2020 out of LSU. And it was like, he had all those physical traits, but he couldn't get himself in the right place. And then Schwesinger is, I have all those traits and I'm there all the time. And it's like, that's what you hope, if you can find, like you said, an athlete with that paired together. Whew.
And they found one. Yep. So this is another example of him just recognizing what's going on and hitting it. So he makes this tackle a yard behind the line of scrimmage just because he's able to recognize what's going on, and then his straight line explosiveness, which I know we didn't get testing numbers, it's really good. Okay, it's really, really good. And for a player with, was he listed at 6'2", 240, something like that, listed height and weight. So it's very impressive. So here's another example. He's right there. Well, actually, this is an example of the concern, right? So there's the arrow. His teammate ends up making this play because watch what happens. So he's trying to recognize what's going on, and bad news. So he's now engaged with a lineman, and he ends up driven back, way out of the play where he's a non-factor now, and he can't do anything to get off of it. It didn't show up a ton in this play, but I think over the course of the season, you could see, okay, that's not where he's good right now. So that is the biggest concern that I personally have with him is what happens when linemen get their hands on him. Does he become this guy who is just completely washed out of the play, or can he at least stay in there and fight and try to stand his ground a little bit to where he can at least gum up a running lane, right? Because of his presence there, right? He's not contact averse, so that's at least encouraging. So I'm hopeful that just NFL strength and conditioning, add some more weight, add some more muscle, and hopefully that can be mitigated. I don't think he's ever going to be a strong stack and shed guy because I just don't think that's his game. That's not the way he's built. But all he has to really do is get to a point where that's not a major detriment to him, and he'll be fine, especially if he's able to play more of a will role. Ideally, he doesn't get to do that because that would mean JOK's back. But again, we don't have any idea what that situation is going to end up looking like. So here's an example of him in man coverage. He's running up the seam here, and he just looks really fluid doing it, right? He's a good enough athlete where he can hang with these slot receivers in a shorter area of the field, and he doesn't even have to run full speed, right? He can throttle down a little bit and prepare himself for the receiver breaking off the route. He doesn't have to commit full speed to running with him down the field. And I think that's going to be huge because then that allows your safeties to kind of not have to worry about making up for that so much. And especially since the Browns safety, at least free safety spot, is a little bit cloudy at the moment, I think that could be a pretty big help.
I think cloudy at the moment is probably putting it lightly.
It's Ronnie Hickman is the projected starter, right? Which is good at Ohio State, and he's been a great find as an undrafted guy. It's just do you want him starting or not? That's the question. Yeah. So this is a example of just he has really quick feet, and that's just such a key crucial benefit for a linebacker to have is the ability to he's trying to this is what makes linebacker so difficult because you can't overcommit to the run or the pass right off the snap. Otherwise, if you guess wrong, you are giving up probably a big play because we try to diminish the impact of linebacker, and I'm guilty of this as well because I'm more of a fan of just running two linebackers with a nickel on pretty much every snap, and then sometimes going down to one linebacker. In order to do that, your linebackers would be pretty good, right? You need to be able to rely on them. They have to be good athletes to be able to survive in coverage and also have the explosiveness to make big plays in the run game. And one of the ways you are required as a linebacker is you've got to be able to be reading the quarterback's eyes and then also be aware of the tight ends coming into your zone and then pay attention to what the tight end is doing. Because if he's running across on a drag full speed, you got to book it and keep up with him. And if he's going to sit down in that zone, you have to explode up into his area and try to, if you can't break up that pass, at least put yourself in a position to limit yak. And I think he's really good at that. So this play is a good example of that. He's not targeted on this play. Look how quickly he closes that gap between him and the tight end, right? And then he contributes to forcing that quarterback to get tackled there. So the click and close, the quick ability to just explode out of his back pedal forward I think is really impressive. Next play. This is so we already showed that play before where he tracks Johnson all the way back around the field in pursuit. This is another great example of how good in pursuit he is. So he's pretty fast, and that speed is crucial on this play because he saves a touchdown or a near touchdown because there's another teammate with him. So he's on the complete other side of the field to where this ball goes, and he has to take an angle here, and he makes the tackle all the way on the 1-2 yard line. Like that is extremely impressive, right? Because he starts out around like the hash mark on like the 27, 28, ends up at the far sideline, the 2 yard line. That's crazy stuff. And pursuit, I think, is a really underrated aspect of the game. Because ideally, you don't have to make plays in pursuit, but it always happens. There's mistakes made. There's good plays made by the offense. And these are the kinds of plays that are just so important. So here's an example of, I think what happens here is he's not really able to see the quarterback, right? So if you look, he's got 2 linemen, he's got his own teammate in front of him, and he's got the running back there on the play action fake. So it's at this moment where he realizes, oh, it's actually a pass, and then he's going to robot. So he's going to turn around, run as fast as he can down the field, and just try to find a crosser. And he does that pretty well here. So he finds his guy. He's not targeted, but he has the physical ability to do that. And I think if he's kept clean and he's able to see the quarterback, he'll react in a split second. So this isn't, I don't think, is his mental processing being slow. I think it's just a matter of he physically can't see the quarterback with the ball until, it's like, well, why is he taking so long? He can't see it. And then once he does, he books it down the field and finds his guy. And it's a really difficult but also crucial skill for a linebacker to have, especially in today's game. So here's I think this is the pick. Yep. So zone coverage instincts, like you said, really good. And this is, this is a really good example of it. So he's responsible for the middle of the field here between the hashes. So he's got a runner through his zone here, so he has to kind of sit down and wait, but he's also reading the quarterback side. So he's doing these things simultaneously, and that's where the mental ability comes in, because I think he knows he has the athletic ability to make some of these plays too, and that helps him kind of be a little bit more lenient, a little bit more aggressive in, okay, I can kind of lay off of my guy here and go towards where I think the quarterback is looking. And it usually works out pretty well for him. So here he can see, okay, he's got a guy crossing through his zone that he probably needs to at least run with a little bit. And he does that. But while he's doing that, he's looking at the quarterback and he sees him rolling the opposite direction. He's not even looking at the guy running through his zone. So he knows, all right, probably not getting targeted there. And at the same time, that guy's going to be leaving his zone pretty soon. So he doesn't have to worry about him anymore. He can kind of focus more on what the quarterback is doing. And then he sees this guy running the crosser on the backside. And then he steps in front of that and makes the pick. This is a really good job of just feeling his coverage zone, recognizing what's going on, but also keeping your eyes on the quarterback and making the play. And then he looks like a running back there, like he's breaking tackles. So that's a really fun rep. It's just great.
It's what you want to see. It's like like you said, he keeps his eye. He starts to move to the one side with the crosser because, like you said, clearly that's the guy. That is the guy that is in his cover. That is his responsibility. But then he's like, man, that's Cade McNamara was their quarterback, wasn't it? I think that's who that is. That yeah, okay. Anyway, but he's reading the quarterback's eyes, and he's
every Iowa quarterback is Cade McNamara.
Yeah, they were all pretty much the same last year. But yeah, he's like, oh no, dude, like there's no chance he's throwing to this guy. And then he like kind of looks over, he's like, oh, but maybe that guy.
Yep.
Go do that.
And he's so big and long that it's going to be hard for, I think, quarterbacks to throw over him just because he's a tall linebacker in the middle of that defense. Yeah. It's fun to watch for sure. So that's a great play. This is another example of, he gets hit by that lineman, and then he actually makes it back a couple yards. So again, this is the kind of stuff. Is he going to be able to avoid a lot of contact? Yes. But is he going to be able to avoid all contact? Absolutely not. And this is what's going to happen until he's able to figure out a way to add more strength, which I think he can do. It's just going to be a matter of time. So I think this is the other pick, right?
Yeah, he baits him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he kind of loses his balance, but that athletic ability to kind of leave his feet and diving catch there right at the end.
Yep. So he's staying with his guy, and then he loses there, but then he's still able to get it. Like
I can clearly tell that's not Cade McNamara now. I'm looking at it.
He's too fast. Yep. Yeah, but again, this game was just a great example of his ability and his potential in coverage, just because of not only the athletic ability he has to make some of these plays, but the feel for it he has. It's natural, it's instinctual. So he has that both in sifting through running lanes and all these moving parts to figure out what the run scheme is trying to accomplish and where the gap is going to be, where he needs to fill it, and also how to survive in coverage. Not only how to survive, but how to make big plays. Like he's an all-around linebacker for sure, and that's definitely encouraging. And this is a great play. I mean, this ends up being a tackle for loss because he's able to stick with them. He's not the one who makes the shoestring tackle here, but look at how fluid he is, just moving through these tackles. It's like he doesn't even get touched. And like there's two guys with a shot at him, and then they barely even get a hand on him just because he's not even like exploding in and out making cuts. He's just like twisting his body because he's just so fluid and smooth doing that. It's just awesome. It looks effortless, right? He's not even trying. So this is another example of just he's just a smooth player. So this is just, I love this stuff because he's so good at performing his assignment and then also looking for what he can do in addition, right? So he's responsible for this tight end, but he so quickly realizes what's going on. The throw's going the opposite direction, right? The quarterback doesn't even have he's got his back turned. He's already in this throwing motion. He knows the throw's going the opposite direction of the field, and he immediately plants his foot and heads the other direction because he sees that so quickly. And fun is the way to describe this tape. Like, we're going to keep saying it. It's just fun. It's exciting. I love watching cerebral linebacker play, and that is exactly what his tape was. And this is his first year as a starter, right? First year with actual production, actual play. So you would think that's only going to improve as he studies more, gains more experience. So It's just really, really, really fun to see. This is another example. So look how quick his feet are, right? So he's able to keep contained on the quarterback here. He's able to stay on his feet. Like it's awesome to see how fluid and impressive of an athlete he is. Now here's an example of, and we said the strength is the biggest concern, but this is an example of a play where he was actually able to show that, hey, he can do this. So this is it was, I don't remember if it was second or third down, but anyway, I was on the goal line here, and this run, it kind of looks like the running back's able to make it in the end zone, but this was ruled down short of the goal line. And this is because Schwesinger makes the stop right there, and he's able to stop the forward progress of the running back. He's able to get in there, sift through, and then he stops him. So it's possible, right? So there are examples of him doing it. They're just, I would say, few and far between. Definitely not as consistent as we would like to see. But if he can do that, if he can add that element to his game, the sky's the limit for the guy.
I think sometimes it's like if he gets ahead of steam, like, because sometimes he gets contact initiated with him when he's moving laterally, like, and kind of on his, not that he's flat-footed, but like a little bit on his the back of his foot when he's moving laterally. Yeah. But like when he's moving full head of steam, like he's figured it out and he's shot out of a cannon. He has enough strength to do it. It's just if the contact is initiated to him when he's not moving north and south, it's like it's just not there.
Yep. Yep. And then this is the final play I have of him. This is just another example of him being able to process and see. So he's watching the quarterback right now, trying to figure out, okay, is this an actual handoff or is this going to be a fake? And then he sees the tight end running through his zone, and then he's able to get into his back pocket. So again, that takes athletic ability, and it takes quick processing to be able to do that. As long as he's able to, he doesn't have to make that interception every play. He doesn't have to make a pass breakup every play, right? He's got to stick with his guy, and I think he's going to be able to do that consistently at the next level. In addition to the big plays that he's going to be able to make just because of how instinctual and reactive he is in the run game.
All right.
So that is Iowa. Very fun game. And I think it just that game is pretty much a microcosm of why the Browns decided to take him 33rd overall. Just because he can make a lot of impacts for your defense. And when you have a reliable linebacker like that who can do all those different things, that makes everyone else on your defense so much better. And I think that's really going to be one of the biggest impacts from that pick.
This Minnesota tape, like I've got it kind of goes back and forth between this Minnesota tape and this and the Oregon tape. But the Minnesota tape might have been my favorite tape I've watched of a linebacker like in the draft process ever. Maybe just because he was in his bag, like breaking up passes, had a couple of sacks, had like 5 tackles for loss. Like it was, and he had like 19 total tackles or some crazy number like that. It was really fun. So let's get started. We'll get started here. I believe this is the play. I should write these down better, but you'll see him just he gets hit by a double team, just kind of gets driven out of the way. You see him, he ends up 5-10 yards back. That's my biggest concern, but that's just an example of it. He's kind of not attacking in that video, and you just kind of that play, you kind of see him like moving a little bit laterally. You'll watch him here in the middle of the field, this against Oregon. And this is just another example of that. Apparently, I decided to start you out with 2 bad games, but bad plays. But you can just see the tight end just fills the hole. He knew where he was supposed to be. I mean,
he engaged, right? He's not contact averse, so I think that's at least encouraging.
And there's kind of an example of a heads-up play. He's going to get contacted here. And he's going to be able to peel himself off of the contact as the running back gets past him. And so this is one thing where I get some hope. It's like, oh, contact. But he's like, yeah, but now that guy's that way. I'm going to disengage and turn. Mm-hmm. You see him in the middle here, just kind of reads the play, sifts through the roughage, and makes the play. You can see him here in the middle of the field, kind of reads it. He kind of navigates. You talked about it, the way he can navigate through some of that traffic. And he's able to kind of keep his feet moving. So even when he's contacted and sort of not able to disengage right away, he doesn't stop. Like, he's not stopping on that. That's not his game. And because of that, you'll see it at a better angle here where he's just kind of like, where's he at? No, there he is. Like, he knows the guy's there somewhere. He's just trying to locate and see how he can make a play there. You see him in the middle here. He's going to read this. He's going to read, it's going to screen pass, and then just look at that.
That's such a nice play.
Like, and the thing about it is, I understand when you watch this play that it gets close to the first down. I understand that, but you're going to see in the second angle of this, when you get the end zone, you're going to see that he beat 3 offensive linemen to the point, because there are 3 Oregon offensive linemen out there in front of this screen pass. So if Carson Schwesinger doesn't make this play, I don't know who does. So
you just had to cover so much ground to do it.
Yeah, and he's look, when the ball is thrown, he's over here. He's going to make contact over here. Or no, about right here. So he's going hash to hash, downfield diagonally, after he took a step towards the line of scrimmage and a step in the opposite direction. And he's just going to fire through there. And his teammate was there too. But look at these offensive linemen at this angle out in front of the running back here. Look at this. Look at that. And Schwesinger just shoots through the pile, and it's like, and here's one of my favorite plays. This is an example of him taking on contact on the goal line. He's like, oh, there you are. Oh, I'm sorry. He didn't make contact. He shot through the gap. That's the wrong one, but still a tackle for loss. I get these plays. But you're just going to see him slide over, move laterally, keep his eye on the quarterback too. He hands to and he's going to fire through a gap. He's just identify, fire through, tackle for loss. It's just instincts. Comes crashing downhill. He was just too fast because he makes contact. You see the offensive lineman make contact with him, but he kind of has to. He's on the outside shoulder of the offensive lineman because of his speed and his downhill burst, that he just keeps running past them. The lineman's trying to catch up with him, but the whole time he's just too slow. And he makes the tackle for loss. From right here, he's going to make his way all the way to the other side here. And watch him. Guy can't get him. Just read it perfectly, went right through the right hole with an offensive lineman hanging all over him. This is a blitz. Just watch him right out of the cannon. Just simple blitz. He identifies where the protection is at its, where he needs to go. Like, and he doesn't let you see the way he's moving, kind of moving back to the side. That's what he's always moving. I think he does a really good job of selling this as he's just going to drop into coverage or run fit or, a standard situation when he's going to blitz, and he's able to look at the protection, see where his guys are. He knows where his guys are going to be, and he knows where the weak spot's going to be in this offensive line to attack it, exploit it.
Yeah, it's selling it, and then he's also rarely overcommitting, right? Mm-hmm. So he's always keeping his options open, and he's in an athletic position where he can go any which way at any point. And I think that's really impressive too.
It looks like he's going to go on the outside of this guard at first, and then he realized the guard's engaged, and he switches back, like you said. You could see him here, kind of, when he takes off right at the snap, he kind of goes like And then he's like, I'm going to go in this way because that's where the coverage is at its weak.
And it's also quickly too. It's very little wasted movement with his post snap movement.
And here he is, just that's a screen. Oh, there's linemen looking for someone to block. Well, they're not going to touch me. Good luck with that. Again, screen destroyed. This dude. I mean, you're just looking at it, man. Like,
he paid attention to the scouting session on what screens look like.
Yeah. And it's funny because they just like, let's just keep doing screens. And Schwesinger's like, that's fine. That's fine.
But we'll get him next time.
Reads the quarterback. I mean, we talked about it. There was a play where Mason Graham broke up a screen play from his defensive tackle spot. But it's like Schwesinger watches the offensive line and he's like, they're all leaking out, not blocking. There's only one time they do that. It's because they're getting out there to set up a screenplay. And he's just like, oh, that must be what they're doing. There was an offsides. So I couldn't edit this part out. I left it didn't, so the play didn't count because there was an offsides. But you'll see him just identify it, just shoots back through all of them. Again, they're out there looking for somebody to block, but he's already passed them. Here he is on the blitz again, just nowhere to go. Nowhere to go, doesn't give you the time. That's his second sack. See him come crashing downhill. Starts over there. It opens up, adjusts, moves laterally to get to the quarterback. I love this. This is the coverage play. Watch Dylan Gabriel sees the guy break on the ball and knock it down. I love that play. These were the plays that you had the two interceptions in your tape, and I had talked to you last night. I was like, I sure hope you have these interceptions. You're like, oh, I got these interceptions. I was like, it's great. But you just see him he's right here in the middle of the screen. He's just backpedaling. There's really nobody in his zone. So he's kind of just trying to identify where it is. He watched Gabriel's looking over here, and then he kind of looks out of his peripherals. He sees the guy crossing over here. And he's like, oh, okay. Knocks it down.
That's like a 1% play, right? Like to have that awareness to move to that point, and then to have the athletic ability and the length to just tip that ball. Yeah. That's special.
And I mean, that might be a touchdown if he's not there, because that Oregon receiver has beat his man, or the tight end. I'm not sure who it was, and Gabriel puts it in a good spot. Here he is, just sifting through the riffraff. Just kind of moves laterally, just going to find something. And then there's just one more example of him being driven back that I don't super love. I saw it more than I wanted to see it. It is what it boiled down to. It was like, I saw it a little bit more in this tape than I wanted to. All in all, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, like, he's 22, 1-year starter. I think that's going to improve. He's never going to be your throwback, stack and shed, blow up an offensive lineman type linebacker. But that's not his game. And I don't think the Browns were drafting him ever expecting him to become that. I think they have a different plan for him, and I think it's just going to be able to maximize his ability, the things that he does well. I think that's better done as a will, probably. But I think he can do it as a Mike. And are you going to have a better version of Schwesinger if he's playing Will as opposed to Mike? Yes. But if he's playing Mike, that means you have JOK back. So
yes, I
think you take that trade-off because you'd have two special athletes at linebacker, and I think you're not going to look back. And if it doesn't happen, I think you're going to have a he's not JOK again, like no one is. But if you're looking for a replacement, like he's probably a pretty good one. I don't even know how I want to say this.
Oh, so there's some plays sometimes with JOK where he kind of overruns them because of his athleticism and he misses it. I've seen some of that out of Schwesinger too. But if Schwesinger does that, and it always makes the running back have to readjust and stop and maybe cut back and this or that or whatever, and JOK's roaming, it's not going anywhere. If you know what I mean, like if Schwesinger has penetrated, gotten to the backfield, missed a tackle for loss, by that time, wherever JOK is on the field, potentially he's there. And like, I know some people were like, and I even said it initially. I was like, oh man, this doesn't bode well for JOK. And then but he is a Mike. Like that is what they played him as. So I'm not sure that maybe this has this big of a influence on JOK as maybe I initially thought on draft night. But it's a great insurance plan. It's like, hey, if we don't have JOK, we've got a pretty good linebacker in the pipes that we feel good about. Like we feel really good about him being, kind of a leader on our defense for his play, and teammates seem to love him. He's got just a beautiful head of hair, just exquisite head of hair. I thought about the other day, people like to slick their hair back. It's like, I'll slick my hair back. That would be my new style. Look at that. Look at what that would look like if I slid this hair back. It would just be a nightmare. But they're also in the back of their head. They're like, man, JOK gets healthy. Like whenever that is, whoo, it's nasty, man. It's just, you didn't think I did not write or talk about Carson Schwesinger much in the pre-draft process because I just didn't think they would value linebacker in a spot that he was going to be available. Like that, he was a second rounder to me all day, every day. Like I was like, I didn't have him ranked as high as like Casey did. Cause I know Casey had him as I think his linebacker 2 behind Jahad Campbell from Alabama, who went to the Eagles at 31. But I was like, they're not going to, I'm not going to get a chance at it. And then I'm like, oh, I get to have this conversation with Sam about this, dude. Like, I've texted you multiple times this week about this. I was like, yeah, buddy, we got some stuff to talk about. I'll text Casey, and you can always tell when I'm like grinding tape because I just send every other tape grinder a text about what I'm doing. I'm like, dude, this got coverage. It's like it'll be like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what are you texting me about Carson Schwesinger?
What is he doing?
Don't ask.
Is he sleepwalking? Really?
I'm sleep grinding tape. I do it at the same time. Summer scouting starts in like 2 weeks. I got summer scouting starting up for the OBR in 2 weeks. Thank you guys so much for supporting this show. We are really excited to continue to dive into this. The one I'm really, really excited about is next week. So we'll be back next Monday at 8 to talk about Quinshon Judkins and why. I'll have 10 reasons why he shouldn't stay at number 10 for you. I will bring that back. Hey, real quick, I'm going to give you some random trivia. All right. I'm going to give you a random trivia and we'll end on this random trivia. There have only been 2 teams to ever beat the Steelers 2 times in the same year at Heinz Field. Do you know who they are? And it might be a trick question.
The 2020 Browns?
No, because their first win was at home.
Ah, rats. I'm stumped.
It's actually the 07 Jaguars with Blake Bortles at quarterback.
07 or 17?
No, actually 07 and 17. Those are the 2. It was a trick question. It was the Jaguars in 07 and 17. Those are the only 2 teams that ever do it. Yeah, and Blake Bortles did it on their AFC Championship run when they went to the AFC. They were almost made the Super Bowl.
Wow.
It was an 07. Yeah. I saw that last night, and I'm like, that's a fun piece of trivia. I'll land it on my dad tomorrow and see what he thinks. Guys, appreciate you so much. We'll see you guys again next week. Pete and Brad back tomorrow with the React. Jeff Lloyd at 6. Is it 6? Yeah, he's on 6 with Browns 3D every day. Make sure you check that out. Stay subscribed. Go over to theobr.com. We got a lot of stuff going on over there. We will talk to you guys again next time.